So this week we're moving on to our low priority skills. We've already covered all of the highest priority skills and the medium priority skills, and now we're going to cover the ones where you're going to see a few questions on these on the EOG, but not a ton. The first one we're doing is narrative perspective, narrator, and point of view. And so the first confusion point for most students here is that we get tripped up by dialogue and we forget to only look at the narration. And so the question we have to ask ourselves is, what is the difference between narration and dialogue? Which one should you consider if you are trying to determine the narrator or the point of view? Now, narration refers to who is telling the story, whereas dialogue refers to any words that are spoken out loud. And we can use quotation marks to tell where the dialogue is. So when we're talking about point of view, also known as narrative perspective or narration, we are only looking at the text outside of the quotation marks. We're only looking at the narration. To practice this, we're going to read a passage together and label the narration and the dialogue. So the passage says, "I have no idea what you're talking about," Marina insisted. In fact, she seemed a little offended at the implication that she had taken the birthday cake from the kitchen. Sharon felt compelled to apologize. "I'm sorry, Maria," she said. "I'm just upset. I don't have enough time to bake yet another cake for Brian. We have to find this one. It couldn't have disappeared into thin air." "We'll find it, Sharon," Marina replied. "There has to be a simple explanation. No matter what, though, Brian will have a wonderful birthday." "I know. Thanks, Marina." And with that, Sharon and Marina went to find the cake culprit. Now, anything that is inside of these quotation marks is not narration. This is all dialogue. So I'm noticing here that we have this conversation between two characters. The characters are Sharon and Marina, and they're just going back and forth with one another. Obviously, they're concerned because this birthday cake seems to have disappeared, and now they don't have time to make another one, so they must have to find this one. I'm not sure how a birthday cake could disappear, but at least we don't really have to worry about that. We're only concerned about the dialogue and the narration. So I've labeled here all of the dialogue. Anything that is outside of the dialogue, so like this part, Marina insisted, she seemed a little offended, she said, I'm noticing that I get a lot of characters' names, Sharon and Marina, pronouns like she, and whenever we see character names and pronouns like she in the narration, rather than pronouns like I, we know that the narrator is outside of the text. Marina's not narrating, neither is Sharon, neither is any other character. Instead, the narrator is outside of the text. That's called third-person narration. The question that we could think about here is, why does the author choose this point of view with which to write the passage? A says to show that Marina is lying about eating Brian's birthday cake. Third-person point of view has nothing to do with this. Because we don't know the character's thoughts without kind of being inside their head, which would be more like first person or at least third person limited, which this is not. B says to show that Marina feels guilty lying to Sharon about eating the cake. Once again, we don't really get any evidence of that. C, to show how the events of the disappearing cake have upset Marina and Sharon. I definitely noticed that they both seem upset here, so C is sounding a little more accurate. D, to show how Sharon is able to figure out that Brian is the cake culprit. Culprit is like somebody who did something wrong. Brian is the person who's having the birthday, so he does not seem to be the cake culprit. The only one that makes sense is C. You'll notice that C doesn't give any internal thoughts because this is third person. Which will not necessarily give us the same internal thoughts. You've already watched a brain pop video on the 3 types of point of view. Just to review them, we're going to take a couple notes here. These are directly from that brain pop video and from other lessons that we've done on this. So the first one is first person point of view. We know that this means a character tells the story. Writers only choose first person point of view when they want to put the reader in the character's shoes. So this gives you their thoughts directly. First person point of view is really common in fiction. in novels and short stories. A couple of examples of books that have first-person point of view we will get to later, so you'll see those novels and short stories. Question is, why choose this perspective? First of all, it helps the reader identify, fill in the blank please, with the protagonist or narrator character. Usually the narrator in first person is also the protagonist, they're also the main character. Think about like Ponyboy and The Outsiders, for example. This also creates empathy for the protagonist or narrator so that we feel what they're feeling and we go through that with them. It also makes the action of the story come alive because it's like you are the narrator or the main character. Think like a first-person video game. When you're in the video game and you're experiencing everything, it makes it come more alive to you. A couple of examples of this. Bud Not Buddy, where Bud narrates. The Hunger Games, where Katniss narrates. Divergent, we get Tris narrating, at least in the first one. The Book Thief, where Death narrates using I. The Outsiders, where Ponyboy narrates. And the School Play, where Robert narrates. Next type is second person point of view. Second person point of view talks directly to the reader. It's very rare, which means it's not common. The only things that really use second person point of view are things that are going to involve instructions. And sometimes we get attention getters, where an author of, say, a nonfiction text, an informational text, might use second person point of view, especially in the introduction, just to get your attention. They might do this by posing a question to you. But if you see the word you and it's in the narration and it's directed to the reader, that means the author is using second person point of view. Why choose this perspective? It speaks directly to your reader, which gets his or her attention. It also gives commands or directions if the purpose of the text is instructional. Examples of this you might have seen are recipes or game instructions. It also creates a strong interaction between the text and the reader. A couple examples: recipes, instructions or directions, advertisements, and persuasive texts. Sometimes the hook sentence of an op-ed. So if you're reading a persuasive text, the beginning of it might use you to get your attention. For example, don't you think students deserve to be paid for great performance in school? If I'm writing an essay that's trying to prove that students deserve to be paid for their grades, I can use you in the beginning to get my reader's attention. That's second person point of view. The last one is third person point of view. Third person point of view involves an outside narrator. There are three types of third person point of view. In limited, we know the thoughts of the main character only. This is common in fictional texts. If you remember back to Esperanza Rising, for example, we mostly knew Esperanza's thoughts. We didn't really know the other characters' thoughts. Besides limited, we also have two others. The second one is omniscient. Omni means all, shint means knowing. So an omniscient narrator knows all characters' thoughts and feelings. And then lastly, we have objective. This is really common in nonfiction. The objective narrator doesn't use feelings. Instead, the objective third-person narrator sticks to facts, statistics, pure information, so you're not getting a lot of internal thoughts and feelings in the objective narrator. Why choose this perspective? First of all, it shows the reader what is going on in many characters' experiences. It does not have to be limited to the character narrator. To be objective, which again means without feelings. To show the inner thoughts and feelings of many characters, that would be third person omniscient, or to show the inner thoughts and feelings of the main character, which once again would be third person limited. Examples of this: All Summer and a Day, The Dog of Pompeii, The Chenoo, The First Emperor, and Super Croc. These were all stories or informational texts that we read throughout the year from our literature book. Now you're going to work on a few different exercises independently in which you identify the point of view and talk about why. I'm going to show you how to do this very first one. It says, you be the writer, picking narrative perspective and understanding how it affects the story. Here's the story. We got two friends, Fiona and Madison. They're watching a movie at Fiona's house when they hear a strange noise at the back door. It has been snowing all night, so they are surprised to hear someone or something that seems to be coming from the backyard. When they open it, a black and white cat comes running into the house, soaking wet from the snow. So you're going to retell this story from three different perspectives. First person from the point of view of the cat, second person, and third person omniscient, showing evidence of the character's inner thoughts and feelings. I'm going to do second person with you because that tends to be the trickiest point of view. Remember, in second person we want to use you, so I'm going to talk directly to the reader. Here we go. Imagine watching a movie when all of a sudden you hear a strange noise at your door. What should you do? Maybe it's a stray cat coming in from the snow. Here, I've retold the story, except I've made sure to talk directly to my reader using the word you. So you're going to do this same thing 3 times. First person from the cat, and again third person omniscient. Once you're done with that, you're going to practice with a few different short passages, all point of view questions, and then you'll be done with this part of the blend space. Good luck.